Zobya Sanje Ribada Shason Dem Devre Banjin Yamba Jivun Divya Kalo Lana Meba Lada Menon Jedem Sanje Chim Benjawa Shaja Tuba La Sat Chedan Jaso Chevon Demba Jim Den Den Dishin Rajumba Yanda Ban Zobya Sanje Ribada Shason Devre Shaban Jidin Yamba Jivun Divya Kalo Lada Menon Jedem Sanje Jedem Yeah, to go my shots and watch you. Jim and the Shinsha one does my young dog. We bought on shots on them on the Veresha one today. You won't color you will number while Hana men on jet. And you jump. Bejawa Shaya to Bama shots and on should have just with you. Consequent, so I gentlemen say, Sergeant and Lanin Jiden and our churches want to say, 남다 공화셔도 소상화 이시자도 세계 차반지된 숨나라면 뭐 모션이 있잖아죠. sensual 마치면 나베시 선도 자와죠. 이제잖아 세바소마제 냐메 제제잖아죠. 뭐모두제 제대마 던제 제베 담바고 손놈이 니신샤마자 자노 타벤데자 개변의 손데 제도 되는 저교와 신교자 차 자노 전에 라바탄다 rab도 신경 담아 있는 게 되는 디바지야 메자징게와 부조조 바자랑게 스네 에네산제 때문에 카마라베 마메다 주마세 멜람라다 젠다 브랜디제이션 데르다 소노문디 고반탄네 젠젠 라드엔 가다나다 시벨란트 시벨존은 고완제 버리면서 아스만 Holy completely fully awakened the prophetic knowledge and will come so that supreme teacher of gods and humans, you the completely awakened, blessed one, the glorious, subdue the Chandrakirti, prostrate the and go forward to the teacher, blessed one, the full destroyer, fully awakened being, perfecting knowledge and no other supreme guide of beings, teacher of gods and humans, to you, being fully awakened, blessed one, glorious, subdue upon the chakra and prostrate the and go forward. The teacher, the blessed one, go beyond, the full destroyer, completely perfect, fully awakened, perfecting conduct, supreme guide of teacher of gods and humans, to you, completely and fully blessed one, glorious, subdue from the shadow, I prostrate offerings. When the supreme of humans, you are born on this earth, based on strife then, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise then, I prostrate. With pure bodies, form supreme and pure, wisdom motion like golden mountain, fame that blazes, blessed, you I prostrate. With the supreme signs, face like spotless moon, you are like the three words are not incomparably wise one to you. You having teacher having more understanding. You the qualities of best wish. To you the one who thusness prostrate. The purity which makes one free from attachment, virtue which frees one from the one path has to the Dharma which classifies and prostrate. Those who are liberated and who also the holy glorified realization, who are devoted to the moral precepts, you the sublime cannot commit any non-virtuous action, perform all perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the star mirror, flame of a lamp,
dream, flesh, see conditioned things as through these meditation beings attain subtle of emotional suffering of aging and sickness.
Sanji Shama Zoji Shama Maha Chanju Bando Dante Jansu Nagi Jeso Jeba Tsonam Jiren Rola Pe Sanji Shama Zoji Shama Maha Chanju Bando Dante Jansu Nagi Jeso Jeba Tsonam Jiren Rola Pe Sanji Shama Zoji Shama Maha Chanju Bando Nagi Jeso Jeba Tsonam Jiren Rola Pe Sanji Shama Chanju Bando Dante Jansu Jiren Nagi Jeso Rola Pe Sanji Shama
I go for refuge to the Buddha and the Buddha made I create the other perfection. May I quickly attain the state of the world. I go for refuge and the mind self. Buddha made I create by practicing giving and the other perfection. May I quickly attain the state of for the benefit of all. I go for refuge and to the Buddha and the mind self. Through the merit I create by practicing may I quickly attain the state for the benefit of all sentient beings.
Tamjide mama za zolonde la sanje chemde de ande na di jeje wan da jomba ya to. Shazonde mande vre sheba chiden chemba 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 kando chemba mande la ta. Sanje chemde de azu wan di jeje wan de sonum da ge jetum. Ve za wan chemba. Ora do jem. Sonum je de ranam je je beje somba nam je jem. Chemu jembe do jem. Yerim ba do ma. Dimba. Eve me ba na lo mo bra go be shero si jem. Toma na je ba. Simje tamji je tomba. 장주에서 만난 게 야와 밥에 가서 나 이제 문장은 내가 가지고 들어와. 이제 봐도 매번 뽑아서 이제 그 손나버 뭐 구제다. 그 좀만 매번 되고 하다가 나게 이제 뭐 손나도 받을 거 있는다. 강남나 매대 바제자 나마나마 되고는 신뢰지 거여도 도와다. 시발도 주고 주고 이렇게. 이제 너도 받대 받아 맞아 받아 다들 좀 산지 좀 내니 이제 내가 양은 내 양도반이자 다만내가 진짜 담배나 집에서 마셔봐 돼야 되는데 전체적인 구치 배경인데 양도 만나면 대신에 도마게와 바베게와 도마게와 돼야서 버저로서 도마게와 그렇죠. 나도 보고 내가 뒤져봐 내가 좀 어떻게 통하고 돼요. 이렇게 하면 이제 소소한 거를 봐지. 근데 내가 무슨 무슨 누가는 내가 가지고 왜 찾아도 내가 지금 내가 더 대박 이거 저 저거 대박 좀 배경인데 내가 사실은 제가 전화 예배지시에 예언서 정하시면 맨날 소주 그동안 이제 맨날 소주 마시고 관계에도 이제 내려서 배전도 이제 차서 page 271 huh? 270
You finished the second paragraph. This said, I think you.
yeah okay this said since those statements that present all phenomena as lacking ultimate existence and as not existing by virtue of their intrinsic characteristics are established to be literally by means. There's no effective objection to their literal meaning. Hence, these treatises cannot be explained as a provision requiring further interpretations. It is with this point, the mind, that Chandrakirti says, point in mind that Chandrakirti says. So I think last time they was talking about the Nagarjuna's uh, even Nagarjuna's teachings interpreted in mind-only school, and Vasubandhu's, particularly Vasubandhu, he interpreted that in mind-only school, and you know, because mm, his their point of view is the basing on the turning wheel of the Dhamma, the unraveling thought. So, the Vasubandhu did not really has to argue any uh, explicitly make argument to Nagarjuna, but he was interpreting that all these Nagarjuna's thoughts in the mind-only school based on the Sutra unraveling thought, which means he rejects the absolute intrinsic nature, you know, because he very much kind of how to say, asserting that things should be intrinsically or inherently exist, and especially the conventional conditional phenomena must exist. As about, but he's still saying that this is he understands how to understand happiness. There's some quoted Nagarjuna's, you know, Jungwadan and Jungu, Nagarjuna's certain line that is talk about even the elements, you know, yeah, Jungwadan, Jungu, elements, the outcome elements are Nagarjuna's is finally decided kind of, so Nagarjuna is literally it's saying that even the elements, the outcome elements are all nothing but consciousness. So the nothing but consciousness, which means is mere thought, mere name, is not saying it is a nature of the consciousness. So the Vasubandhu took that to saying now even the Nagarjuna says the elements are part of consciousness. So yeah, all phenomena like ultimately. So there is no so there's no there's no effective objection to their literal meaning. Hence, these treatises cannot be explained provisionally, requiring further interpretations. So, like Heart Sutra says, there's even the five aggregates are into inherent existence. So Vasubandhu thinks that they need to be interpreted. They cannot take it as a literal. So they deserve only to be disputed and examined. The point of giving effective objections against the uh, non-literal literal readings, like Heart Sutras, presenting the countless truth to support and straightforward reading to reading is to establish that the meaning of Nagarjuna's treatise cannot be interpreted in a in a in the same alternative manner. Navigational studies cannot be interpreted in the same ultimate manner. Chandrakirti addressed this point about the differentiations of the definitive and provisional sutras. Only briefly here. So, Heart Sutras and all the Nagarjuna texts say it's a literal, literally you can take it as you read. So, you know, Chandrakirtis, Vedapalitas, and then the Asangas, the Vasubandhu, this is, you cannot really take this as literal. So if you take the literal, then you make it nihilist, because you have to say everything is, even the five aggregates, actions of intrinsic natures, things do not intrinsically exist. Means for them, things are not exist. Rejecting the objections raised against such refutation. Good morning. So yeah, rejecting objections raised against such refutations. Such repetitions made by Vasubandhus. The objection here, the objections, if arising by virtue of intrinsic characteristic, does not exist on the level of both truth. If arising by virtue of intrinsic characteristic does not exist in the level of both truth, conventionally, ultimately. So that's in the Prasangika school standpoint, form and so on would become non-existence. So, form and so on, form, sound, smell, taste, right, would become non-existent. In that case, the perceptions of the reality of form and so on by cognition, by that of the eye and so on, eye, ear, nose, right, would be impossible in the world. So, otherwise, non-existing things like rabbit hole could be perceived by the cognitions, such as those of the eye and so on. The reason is exactly the same in the both cases. So now Vasubandhu thinks that, if you take Heart Sutra Nagarjuna's as literally, uh, then you have to say the intrinsic existence and not exist in the both in the conventional and ultimate. So even there is no intrinsic exist in conventional level, and the form and sound, smell, taste could become existence. So then all become like a rabbit hole. So to respond to this, now this the rejecting objections comes. Rejecting objections, empty things depends on the how's that convergence. Taller, right? Convergence is connected. Join, So empty things depends on the convergences, such as reflection and so on, are not unknown. The reflections is now here saying this is how they reject the objections. The reflections, dream objects, illusions are all happening in the convergence, but dependently it happens. But the reflections in the dream objects, illusions, they do not really have any true nature. They don't exist, intrinsically or inherently, or truly, but still it happens. It is, dependent arising. And just in form and empty things, like in the reflections, a perception can arise that bears its form. So reflections, although it's not true, but it's dependent arises. It has a form that you can look through your eye consciousness, impaired eye consciousness. So likewise, although all things are empty, they do arises from emptiness in a robust way. From the empties, yeah, sound of clap. Just one hand, there's nothing, no clap, but with another hand, there's a clap. So from the empty, something dependently, something arises. So it's uh, empty things such as reflections and so on, including echoes and the like, arises dependent convergences of cause and conditions. The meeting of mirror and face, of a cave and the issuing sound, so forth. Such things are not unknown to the worlds. Even ordinary people know this. Reflections are true, echoes are is unknown, is not unknown to them. They are all well known, and just as a form, something known to be the world, and empty of false things like a reflection, perceptions, a perception such as that of the eye can arises, it bears in form, that of the reflections and the like. In other words, uh, form from right from false things like mirror image arises perceptions bearing a false aspect. Likewise, all the world things are empty of existence through their intrinsic characteristic from causes from causes that are empty of such existence. Effects that are empty of such existence do arise in robust way. Yeah, so you can see, yeah, with one hand empty of this sound of the clap, but that hand, depending on the other hand, and produces the sound of the clap, right? So in the robust ways, here the Chandrakirti speaks of the arising of the visual perceptions on the basis of mirror image. Now, a mirror image is a conditioned thing, and since it is different in the nature from the cognition, the mirror image is a conditioned thing, since it's different from the nature of the cognition, but is it different from the eye consciousness? So it is an external reality. Therefore, it is called external reality. It is not the nature of the consciousness. It's something that perceived by the eye consciousness. Therefore, it is external. So the disciple is called very simple kind of way to describe the external. So they are not talking about it has to be, like in South African school, external uh, external object means you know. So they talk about what's the uh, six or minute particles, you know, builds the what do you call it? Minute particles, the subatomic particles.
About partners.
So that is between, when they think external means this kind of, the form has to be produced from the true kind of true basis. So the particles are the truly existence. From the collection of the particles, the six of them minute particles generates one particle. That particle generates another particle, and something becomes visually formed, visually formed. So that's the reason external. Right? The prasangika is perceived by the eye consciousness. It is not the nature of the eye consciousness. Therefore, it is here the Chandrakirti external realities. Furthermore, since it is the objective condition of the visual perceptions, therefore the form is become the objective condition of the visual perceptions, eye consciousness. Chandrakirti takes it to be a visual form. We should also discern from this the status of phenomena such as double moon and appearance of the floating here uh, and the mirage and so on, as well as echoes and similar examples. All of them in the regular school considered is external. The existence of the things by virtue of the intrinsic characteristics which is being perceived by the cognitions of any of the five impaired senses. So impaired senses, unimpaired senses, eye conscious, nose conscious, tongue conscious, ear consciousness. So something that is uh, not impaired, unimpaired senses. So things are external objects. They are reality. So external object. There's not much. The external object means just it perceived by the sensory perception, and they are not the nature of sensory consciousness. Therefore, it is external. So it is external does not mean it exists inherent from the particles. Because the Prasangika is whole, there's many form. Some of the form that uh, you know uh, so the commonly we can perceive through the sensory perceptions. Some form that is only seen through certain level of the sensory perceptions. Again, and they also believe in the dream form. Dream form is the form, and then there's through the concentration, the highly concentration. So they also creates another form. So that is still form, but it has no you know, not based the how say anything that uh, how say objective evidence in particle level. Prasangika. Through the concentration, high concentrations, and receive some kind of new form. So that is not what the common people can see. That still is a form. This is called imputed form. So Ubakari soups is sometimes, you know, uh, this is very similar. Like sometimes people, because of imbalance in the element, they could visual something like seeing ghost. So these are essentially these are all forms. Even the dream objects that you see in the dream state of mind. You know. So I think there's a five kind of form. Yeah, I don't really remember exactly. Sudi Keshe, Ngomakayu Jisu, Kunta Bisu. Yeah, I only remember the form. So the things, the form that everybody can see, color, the shapes, and another level of the consciousness. So because of the imbalance of the elements, it creates some kind of visual form. So that also perceived with the sensory perceptions. And then through the high concentrations, another level of the more settled form that you can perceive through the sensory perceptions. So these do not really exist or objectively or any objective evident in the but still it's questionable. Can this concentration can it create the form without the element, right? So probably not. Not the, you cannot create any form without the elements, and they still consider the elemental derivative, right? Chandrakirti speak of the rising of the visual perceptions on the basis of the mirror image. Now the mirror image is a conditioned thing. Since the different nature of the cognitions, it is external reality. Furthermore, the sin is the objective condition of the visual perception. Chandrakirti takes it to be the visual form. We should also discern from this um, status of the phenomena, such as double moon and appearance of the flooding air. So these are the impaired sensory perception, seeing the double moon in like a bald man see the falling air, like something fly because of the impaired in the sense power. You see some kind of when there's no fly or the air falling. So this uh, some kind of disease that can cause. So anything other than that impaired sensory perception, uh, which has perceived some kind of form or sound, smell, taste, are external reality. So similar example, uh, the existence of the things by virtue of the intrinsic characteristic, which is being perceived by the cognitions of any of the five unimpaired senses, is analogous to phenomena such as the face reflection, double moon, floaters, and so on, which appears to the distorted sensory perceptions that existence by virtue of the intrinsic characteristic is perceived, despite being impossible, is right. Despite being impossible, is
And what is?
analogous to the existing of the reflections as a phase, and so on. Being impossible, yet being impossible, and yet it's still being perceived as such. Form and sound is so on they are analogous to the phenomena like mirror, echoes and like and the like. So just as well, just as we would take intrinsic existence of the five sensory objects, such as the form to the external reality, yet it would present so on seen as such to be external reality. Likewise, although one would not regard the reflection of the face externally real face, uh, one can still characterize the phenomena themselves, mirror image, and so on. External reality. So when it comes to characterizing what is and is not an external reality, the situations is equal for both form and so on. So on. On the one hand, the mirror image, and so on the other hand.
I find this very mysterious.
Yeah.
Because, okay, on one level, we're talking about we perceive form through our senses. But now you've mentioned something very strange that there's five categories of forms. I mean, I guess we can imagine one is what we're seeing through our senses, even our dreams as we generally perceive them. They're reformulating things in terms of what we see through our senses, as if our senses were operating in the dreams. But now I could give an example of like seeing ghosts. There seems to be the potential of other categories of forms that maybe, I don't know, if maybe they're not even coming through our senses, at least what we generally understand as our senses. And you're saying these five categories seemingly are still elemental. And it's almost like there's some kind of dynamic causing new categories of interdependence that cause things to arise in three or four ways that are unfamiliar even to our senses. Something is causing these things. We're calling them forms, but I'm not sure we don't seem to generally perceive these things like ghosts. There may be a few people who perceive these things, relatively few, but five categories, and we're kind of conjecturing that they're still elemental. What is the dynamic that can cause these further categories of forms? Do you understand my question?
Kind of. Kind of understand. So maybe your question is to uh, what what condition eye consciousness could see the color, sound, color, shape. Also, eye consciousness sometimes sees something not really visually formed to the common people, but some way people could have the visual of them. That's how it conditions, how this happens. Yeah, so this is a kind of, uh, one thing you can say is something that is uh, kind of, turbulence in the elements level in inner elements, or sometimes it can be karmic relations. Sometimes it can be too much superstitious, and then somehow you could have reflections of that. Like if you see, for example, so in this Lama Tsongkapha's text from the beginning says, in the fourth bhumi, Sangden Nawachos. What is this English word for that? Copper, fourth bhumi. When you reach the fourth bhumi, the first appearance, whole like copper-like colors. Sang, right? Copper-like. So that is also some kind of changes in the element level, and some kind of that condition to the consciousness, and consciousness perceive. Now, if you think it's just because the internal kind of conditions, and how can the internal consciousness, the inner elements, because of some changes in there, and the sense perception perceives something, and if you think that this is just like a jaundice, because the eye consciousness see the white as the yellow. I don't think so. This is not like a disease, uh, because the basis to any color is already there wherever you go. So then now the sometime because you're for the fourth bhumi, because the certain realizations that really impact on the elements that condition the sensory perception to perceive, to contact the element to create the copper-like color. Like, uh, you know, I'm not sure uh, the jaundice is internal disease that condition the eye consciousness to see the white as yellow. And then, uh, uh, like uh, when you are riding a car in the speed, and all the trees in the house moving back. So this is also conditioned by the car, the speed of the car, not the sense of perception, not the element. The speed of the car causes you to perceive the house and the trees and then uh, so these are very looks like very similar, like for the Buddha seeing that, and then some outer realizations of the clairvoyance changes in eye sense power, like air sense power, could hear the mild sound, the far sound, or it impacts on the eye sense power to perceive things even beyond the mountain. Mountain is still there. Mountain could not block you to see things. Like, and then so like eagle and see from the miles, because the karmic impact the sense power, so they could see things, right? Clairvoyance is uh, what you're seeing, the object is there, is real, but normal people could not see any objective phenomenon, right? So because of the your realization is impact changing the quality of the sense power. It allows you to see things, even there is objective phenomena,
could not really obscure that sense of perception. And then, like a ghost, uh, you know, uh, the, not everybody can see the ghost. Some people can see the ghost. And the Vasubandhu text, this is, as this state of mind, one condition is if you're too afraid, and then that changed element could not see the ghost. If you're uh, totally not believing and says, uh, and mind is so excited, and then that could not really see that. And your mind is very stable and very balanced, and there's the possible gives you the chances to have receive ghost, the form of ghost. And sometimes, people, you know, this is what in the names we call, spirit uh, obstacles. Some people elements are too low, and the mind is too kind of sinking, and then because of something that is an element, and you see things that other people could not see, and people think you are mad, you're crazy, mentally ill. So I think some kind of mind sink, and that the elements are very low. And then again, that impacts on the elements and see things differently. Now, the question is which objects are real, which objects are not real? The jaundice cause the color white to yellow is we all says this is just not real. And the people have this some kind of disease that even the bald men can see the hair falling. And then they says, oh, that's not real. And so, so the clairvoyance you cannot disprove that. The person who is sitting here in this kind of, there's the mountain or there's a wall. The one person sitting here, he can see through the clairvoyance through the walls. So that is the real because it's proven by the result. You have to examine. So as I see it, it is there. If something is real, then it was true that he is seeing it. So now the question, and the second question, how it is possible that is normal sense power could not see through the obstructed phenomena, and how this person, and then sometimes the this Sotantic school of Vajrayana, this is mind is taking over the sense. Mind is taking over the sense power. Actually, what is seeing is the seeing mind. And the Mahayana, this text is all saying that it is through the seeing the sense perceptions. So that's called sense power, borrowed sense power. So certain concentrations brings the new sense power, and through that way you can see things. And the concentration is disappear or stop functioning, and then you become normal. You cannot see. So now this is the Prasangika school says this. Uh, you know, like the first, the fourth boom is seeing is good resource, impurity form, and the means the clairvoyant person, clairvoyant, even the night, he sees something very clear. So that's called something means visual that is very clear, like daylight scene. But yeah, but mind is, overpowered, many times overpowered. Like when you're too angry and you see everything's red. So that is also the anger's taking over or overpowered on the sense of perceptions and projects, everything is red. So the perception discourse is all these objects are, perception says, like a tree, the greenness of the leaf, flowers, like they are external. They too are external. All of them, like mirror image, reflections, uh, blue, yellow, white. So all this is external. Now, some of the externals, the like the the eye consciousness, which is seeing this reflection of face in the mirror, it is the reflection is external, but when the eye consciousness, when it sees the reflections as the face, and there is no portions, one portion is seen as face, one portion not seen as face. Everything appears face. When you look at the water, the reflection of the moon seen uh, in the water, and you see that there is the real moon, eye consciousness. So when the outer, when you uh, when you put the finger and eye and look at the moon, you see the double moon. So that also sees the moon, double moon, one moon, two moon, three moon, whatever moon. So is still considered external. So it is external and it sees a real true moon. And the impaired sense of perception, like eye consciousness, looking at the leaf, so that also sees the leaf as true existence. Because all eye consciousness, sentient is eye consciousness, and whatever they see is see as a true. So that not talking about the mental state, but the very perception, perceiving true moon or reflections or the leaf or whatever, everything as true.
Even jaundice patients seeing yellow and white. True.
George's eye consciousness, when it sees the yellow, it's true yellow. True. Now we are not saying it's a true, but consciousness, from the consciousness part, it sees that there is the yellow. maybe sometime you can. So like when the sunrise in the noontime is very bright, very looks like it's white. So then sun sets. So when the noontime, when you look at, what's it? Horizons, yeah, horizons. There is no yellow. When sun sets, then the yellow appears. The yellow is not pre-exist there, right? So the condition, the element level, to be appears as a yellow, to be appears as a bright white. It is within the elements, has a potential to create any color. So the outer elements has just nature of the element. It can be contact with the eye consciousness, can be seen, uh, you know, uh, any color. So the element could be contact with the sense powers, and sense powers that sense powers that is impact by the high realizations, again seeing another form. And normal people can see another normal things. Because the basis, without the element, you cannot project or you cannot create any color shape. But element does not mean element has no color. Element themselves has no color. The element can appears derivative, elemental derivative can be appears in many colors when in contact with sense power. Like you say, the sound. If you look, the basis of what creates sound is just wave. Wave has no sound, right? But when it touches the eardrum, it hears the sound. So I think this is very true. There was not long, Nagarjuna was born after 400 years after Buddha passed away. During that, Nagarjuna's happened. Nagarjuna, in his writing, says that sound do not travels. So it's looks like very true. More than 1,000 years, right? The sound is like each, they says, breaks and joint, break, sounds like that. Because one wave, it, the vibration on another level elements, and that creates a wave again. The first wave, which has to vibrate on the element, is gone, finished, done. So it breaks here in another. That breaks. So there is no one sound that travels all the way to your head. So yeah, today we're saying in the Pacific school, the external means it perceives uh, through the sensual perception, and it is not the nature of the consciousness. So therefore, it is just it is not really pre-exist somewhere in element or particle level. Yeah, there must be. Otherwise, the Buddha says arhats, the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, because they're different mind, different level of the mind. And so their happiness, their peace is not in just mental state, even in sensual, physical, mentally, all there's a peace, happiness. So in the sensual level happiness, the sensory have seen something, something that is, you know, pleasant. Sensory level, they see something very pleasant, very gorgeous, very beautiful. All the time they see it. So the angry, very angry persons, every day they see through eyes something not right, something's, you know, something's problems, incomplete. So yeah, because the things that we perceive through consciousness is independent devices. It is not on one side. On the empty things, empty nature happen. So that reminds me that in the monastery, at this moment, we have a very senior monk. His nickname is Rock Smiling or Stone Smiling. So every time when he come up, he's just everywhere he smiles. So you may see something very, something amusing. Everybody call him Stone Smiling. He can smile the wall and the rock. So everything. So here it's saying, yeah, the, each sensory perceptions, they see the object, true as it appears. The false nature of the reflections in the sense of, right, false nature of the reflections in the sense of it lacking the reality, uh, it's lacking the reality of a face is something that can be established by all reasonable, literate people, literate people of the world whose minds are not informed by the scriptures or reasoning presenting the emptiness. So it is entirely wrong to say that realization of this level of falsehood presented and present some kind of core relational cognition of emptiness. So I think, yeah, uh, everybody knows the reflections are not true. The mirage is also unreal, and but it is not necessary they have understood the conventional is unreal. They know the example. So the Psychic school give you the example, like this reflections, mirror image, you know, uh, echoes. So it's not true, you know. So the other, the conventional reality example that understood even the common people it is not real, but it's not necessarily they understood conventional reality is unreal, untrue. In that case, one might ask, when come when one comes to establish the false nature of the reflection along the lines familiar to the world, this uh, does this not establish the falsehood as a defined by Madhyamika? So Madhyamika says, like reflections, right? Like reflections, every conventional are untrue. So if not, how does the former, the mirror image, serve as an analogy for the latter Madhyamika emptiness? This is not really, yeah, this is, so example, you always use the example that other people understood, already understood. And then you're using based on that example, and you can reason out everything's like that, right? So which it does not mean that whoever has understood the example understood what you're trying to constitute. Like in non-Buddhist case, Om sound is not the impermanent, not the permanent, because it is a product. So who believes the Om sound is a permanent and also know that Om sound has to be made from the mouth. It has to be produced. Oh. Logan appears at 3:16.
From the doctor, yeah. I've appeared from the doctor.
So here, falseness and reflection sense of it's lacking the reality phase, something that can be established by all reasonable, literal people of the world whose minds are not informed with scripture and their reasoning uh, presenting emptiness. So it is entirely wrong to say that realization of this level of the falsehood represent some kind of coarse relational cognition of emptiness. Maybe some people may think that, who understand this type of falsehood of the reality of the reflections may understood the conventional realities, you know, maybe 1% up to 10% or 100. In that case, the one might ask that when one comes to establish the false nature of the reflections along the line uh, familiar to the world, does it not establish the falsehood, define the madhyamikas? If not, how does the former mirror image serve as analogy for the latter madhyamika emptiness? Here, the use of the phenomena such as mirror image as an analogy involves citing level of falsehood already established by the world from everyday experience. So almost everybody knows that. It is not the same falsehood as the defined by the Madhyamika that the person has already established that is being cited as an analogy, with the reflections perceived as a phase. No differentiations whatsoever can be made on the level of appearance itself, saying this part of the reflections appears as the face and that part does not. So it is the entirety of the reflections that appears as the face. So citing these analogies of how, though the entirety of the perceptions of the face in a mirror image does not exist as it appears, there is no contradictions in maintaining that such reflection arises in dependence upon its cause. In the same way, when the blue object appears as existing by virtue of intrinsic characteristics, no differentiations whatsoever can be made as to which part does and which part does not appear as existing through the intrinsic characteristic. And furthermore, what is perceived does exist as a perceived in entities. Nonetheless, it can be established that there is no contradictions with the fact that blue things is produced from its own cause and that it can produce its own effects. So now, if one can maintain the standpoint whereby while there is nothing in the mirror image that exists as face as perceived, so this does not lead to the mirror image becoming the non-existence. So this is another part. So first, maybe there are some people may think, oh, some intelligent people may have understood in the partial with emptiness because they understand the echo, they understand the reflections, they understand the particles. So they may have something historian says, right? Quantum physics, almost to one of the schools. So Lama Tsongkapha says, no. This one is very close. Looks like they are on the minority school. Lama Tsongkapha says, no, they are not minority school. Because they are very intelligent, very knowledgeable, learned person. So when they contemplate on that, so they may have some understood of everything is like reflections, everything is an illusion. They may have understood partially. So Lama Tsongkapha says, no. Even learned persons who has never really studied these scriptures and the reasoning the emptiness, they could not really understand, conventionals are unreal and and it is they cannot understand that. So saying that is, if they see reflection, normal people what they say is, oh, reflection is not true. Not true means that is non-existing. Almost they don't have, they not true and not exist. So some people see the same. Right? So not true is here not saying it's not true is not the meaning of non-existing. Not true is, it is dependent arising and it is unreal as it appears. It's not really rejecting the existing of that thing. Illusions is not true does not mean illusions exist. So there is not saying there in illusion, magician phenomena, they have no any form. You're not saying there's no any form. There's no any functions. Yes, there is functioning, the performance of functions. There is the activity. There is the form, but it is not true as it appears to the consciousness. So similarly, everything, every conditioned phenomena, every phenomena, it appears to the consciousness as a true intrinsically existing. But when you say it is absence or intrinsic existence, so the absence of intrinsic existing is negating the characteristic part of that. It is not intrinsically exist, but it exists, relatively exists. The Prasangika school strongly, many times saying, my non-existing or intrinsic quality is existing, is relatively existing. It is not, rejecting or refuting the existing nature of the phenomena. So echoes existing, reflections exist, sound exists, but they do not exist as it appears. And then some people may say, oh, maybe partial, the partial they may have understood. The partial, which means, so many of the great masters from the uh, essentialist school, thinks that if your eye consciousness and whatever the eye consciousness, impaired sensory perception has perceived something, if that is unreal, and then how do you define this impaired sensory perception? How do you know it's a valid cognition? Because whatever the object in the eye consciousness is unreal. So when these kind of questions, people who raise this kind of questions, they seems like the color that appears to eye consciousness perceived, eye consciousness is the valid cognition with relation to what it appears as a color. So if the color is unreal, so the color should not exist. The Prasangika we have, 1,000 times we say the color is dependent arising. It is unreal as it appears to the eye consciousness as a, essentially existing, objectively existing. And when this comes to the objectively existing, eye consciousness do not see some part of the color is objectively exist, some part does not exist. No, every part of the color that is appears to eye consciousness is objective. So like normal, the reflections when you look at the mirror. So your eye consciousness sees your face in the mirror. You don't see part of the mirror looks like my face, part of the mirror is not my face. They don't see it. So every reflections appears as a face. Yeah. So this has many people have this always that there's a problem because unreal sometimes interpreting as not exist, and past is also interpreted as non-existing. Future is interpreted as non-existent. So that's why the ordinary people, when things cease to exist, and people think that now this turning into non-existence. When someone dies, so he dies. People thinks, he become non-existence. Yeah, I said that it's not an END, it's AND, So like and so what happened now? So very learned person sometimes don't see the END and AND. So yeah, so although the nothing within the entire field of the perception of the blue object exists in the virtual intrinsic characteristics, as it appears to, one can definitely still possess existing of the object, existing of the blue object. This kind of clear uh, differentiations employing refined intellect as to how in relation to form and so on, one distinguishes between two this is to be negated, and this is not to be negated. On the basis of the analogy of the mirror image, is an indisputable edge finding the middle way view. So the middle way find this is the best example, reflections. So we should not be easily content with our understanding or role of such an analogy. So this, either is another way. Doesn't do not satisfy with just languages. Either not satisfied with just the language of the words. Yeah, I think in normal times we always show the satisfactions or show the sign of understanding. We just hear the word. Oh, I know. Say, right. So here you should not be saying this. Or here, just by hearing that. Oh, seed has ceased to exist when the sprout is manifest. Oh, I know. The seed exists. Cease to exist. The nature of that seed has ceased to exist does not mean it is non-existent. Yeah. There's a policeman, or they use what they say is to understand, copy that, right?
Oh, yeah.
10-4 or something. So there,
Copy that?
do you copy that? No. So don't just copy. So when it comes to the, emptying intrinsic nature, there's no copy. So in the view of these, the commentary says that while understanding the face of the cause and effect, even in relation to a mirror image, there is no intrinsic, that has no intrinsic existence. What learned person would simply on the basis of the perceiving form, feeling, and so on, that are not outside the realm of cause and effect, determine these to be endowed with, right? Intrinsic nature. Therefore, although the learned one perceives these as existing, they have no intrinsic existence. So the Chandrakirti, I think he's trying to, in precisely, kind of trying to, how to say, indicating that it is very, very essential the intrinsic nature, not in ultimate level, even the conventional level, it is very, very essential. So this is what in monastic we do that. If Heart Sutra says even the five aggregates are empty intrinsic existence. Oh, so no more, no laws, no time, no intrinsic, no intrinsic, no intrinsic time, and we just copy. I copy. So sometimes this shows easily. It's kind of very simple. So conventionally, you have to negate or refute intrinsic nature. Now, how do you conventionally empty the intrinsic nature? The conventionally emptying intrinsic nature, the color, even in convention, color is constructed, created through many things collected, like light, space, form, sense powers. And also, even even conventionally, the color do not, inherent in the light, sense out, and space in the form. So this is very, Chandrakirti said, this is very, very important. Everything, even in conventional, like sound, when you analyze sound, sound is the creation between the wave and the air drum. So the sound cannot be, or sound should not be, how to say, inherent in the wave. Sound must not be inherent. The content of that is sound. It also conventionally sometimes thinks if someone calls your name, and if you think the sound is calling your name, right? Sound is by itself calling your name. So then the question is, you know, so does sound, from the far to the near, the far to the near, it is, coming towards you by calling your name. One who makes the sound is the other side, far distant. And then he first makes the sound, and that vibrate element level, and that create the waves, and then the contact with the essence and the generation of sound. So the each sound, produced from the different waves. So do they coming calling to your name? And each waves has a action to call your name. So the calling name is the relation to the person's intentions, one who make the sound. So therefore it says this sound is calling my name. Conventional, even the conventional sound do not call the name by itself. So here Lama Tsongkapha was saying it's very, very essential. Negating the intrinsic nature, even in convention, is very, very, uh, you know, critical, very important.
Is it possible to someone to understand emptiness ultimately, but not see it in see the absence of intrinsic ultimately analysis, but does not see that in conventional way?
I think sounds like the way that Chandrakirti has mentioned is uh, to be perfectly understood emptiness, which means you haven't really fallen in eternalisms. So to prove that is where do how to say, examine when you look at the convention. So in conventional world, and you see everything is intrinsically, and you haven't really understood nature. So because of the contemplation, objective analyzing and negate intrinsic nature, that impact conventional. Now you see there's so many questions. There is no any sign these things happening, but it is happening. So the conventional, if you negate the intrinsic nature conventionally, the conventional perceptions is there to help you to not deny the existence. Because each consciousness saying, yeah, I heard that, I see it, I smell that. So this is very, very powerful evidence to prove these are not a non-existent. But you mentally see there is no way I can see them exist from inherently. That it gives you the well understands. Otherwise, when you contemplate, you seem like, oh, I may have understood this kind of emptiness. And then conventional, everything is concrete. So which means your contemplation not really brings any impact on conventional mode.
I'm having some difficulty with the opposite side of this. When you mentioned before, you gave the example of the dead person, that some people think that that person does not exist at all, or the seed that now has it's dissolved because what has arisen is the sprout. I mean, when you say it doesn't exist at all, I would say conventionally that person doesn't exist at all. The seed that no longer exists does not, it seems to me, it doesn't exist at all. Of course, you can say it exists as a potential to arise in some, not that precise seed, but there will be new seeds arising again. So the sprout carries the potential, not that seed arising, but new seeds arising again, assuming the right causes and conditions arise. But I would say, no, it's just like the clock has reached 12 o'clock, and now it's beyond 12 o'clock. You can't say it won't become 12 o'clock again. You can't deny the potential that it won't become, it won't become, you can't say that.
Yeah, I can move in 9 o'clock, I can move the 12 o'clock. Clock to 12 o'clock.
But I would say that moment no longer exists. In that moment is no longer exists at all. I don't see why that's problematic to say that moment no longer exists at all. That doesn't deny the fact that new moments will arise. I don't really see that as an incorrect statement or even nihilistic, or the person died. Certainly conventionally, you can say, oh, that person exists. He lives in you. You see that all the time. Your father lives in you. He's passed away, but he lives in you. But I mean, but as a conventional entity, as that person existed, that's it. I would say he's gone. That doesn't mean there's no traces left, or no ability to conceptualize continuity in the form of the son or the daughter, or the arising of a future person. So I mean, I don't think I'm mistaken here. And I don't see it as nihilistic. It doesn't deny arising. But as that existed, it no longer exists at all. Seems to me that's a correct statement.
Because I said it. Sometimes mother says, why I cannot do it? I said it because
Because I said it. No, not. Am I mistaken?
No. My
Am
mother is
I
always right.
character-
And my mother is always right. First rule is mother is right.
First of all, I don't think my mother was right about a lot of things. I got in a lot of trouble because I didn't think my mother was right about a lot of things. But so I think I
Krishna
really
still
say
says, when the Brahman and Krishna play the fight, they have rules. First rule, mother is always right. She still says that.
But in American society, it's almost the opposite.
Yeah, I want to hear from you. Logan, do you want to say something?
Are we? What are we talking about? I mean, I think when it comes to like, I kind of think I get what Larry's saying, just in how, in a sense that like, yes, when the seed ceases to exist, it no longer is present.
Yeah.
And so you can say that, yeah, it's gone very
Yeah, that's
clearly.
the reason.
But
It's no longer in the present.
right. But like the way that I think about it is if the seed ceases to exist, or if the seed is gone, so that means it's dead, burnt up, whatever, somebody's dead. In a sense, if that means that, oh well, it no longer exists, then the way that I think about it is that then that means that everything that seed or that person ever interacted with in the past, also all of that just almost has to be like erased, like
Yeah.
post whatever you want to say, because it no longer exists. And so obviously like that's not the case as with the seed and the sprout example, is because if the seed disintegrates, then the sprout can't be there, because that means that the conditions from which the sprout came from never exist or do not exist. So then the sprout can't exist.
Sometime in the school, and the kid whose father has passed away, and the school administrator, they still believe each kid has named their father. So what's your father's name? If the kid says, "I have no father, I'm without father." So does that prove that father is no longer with him, or in the present time, can he prove he has no father? He is born without father? Because his father is not in the present. So when someone who's uh, facing a lot of difficulties, this is so because of this bad karma. So does that mean the karma that you are committed as is existing right now, or you say the karma is not here, therefore I cannot experience any result of the karma. So I can't experience the karma. Therefore says my karma is still not dissipated yet. It's right now is manifesting. And then when you have make yogurt in the morning, and then last night the milk, you yogurt and fermented, and the morning says, can you say the last night milk was not exist, non-existence. So last night milk I fermented. Now this happened without the milk. It's not possible. Now this is the milk yesterday. It was yesterday a milk. It was yesterday are met. You are in the past, another person. It was yesterday a myth, which does not, it's still proving that, when it's not in non-existence. And we say, once I was a young, well, that young boy was you? Yes, I am. So this whole contradicting language, you say non-existence. So if your question is like, oh, I would like to say, and then we reject that, whatever you like to say. So if you think things that is the past things not exist in the present, therefore past non-existent, that cannot prove. We can say past things do not exist in the present. Yes, it is true. When the past things not exist in the present, does it proving the past is non-existent? Everything is transforming. When you are a manager, then you unemployed, you're father, and you're smith, you all become non-existent. Once I was a manager, and I was a potter. Now I'm a smith, right? So those the past may not become non-existence. So that and another thing is the present time. What is the present? So you are simply think that the future is not born in the present time, therefore future not exist. Past does not exist in the present time, therefore does not exist. And how about present minute? The present minutes is constructed from seconds that are past, seconds that are future. Minute has to be exist from the past of the seconds, the future of the second. There is no minute that exists with all the 60 seconds together. So in that case, you have to say present minute does not exist because many part of that, based on in the past and the future. So you have to be, I hear saying, is the Chandrakirti was saying that, you have to make sure the clear how do you say it. When you say the past does not exist in the present, that is right. Past does not exist, therefore non-existing, that is so. Otherwise, you cannot say if someone is, facing a difficult time, very unfortunate, you cannot say it's because of your karma. The karma is non-existent. So the Vaibhashika school, the karma has remained as the bank statement. The bank statement. The Prasangika school says not. It is just you want to name it non-dissipation. But there is no any substantial. There is no any intrinsic quality in there. If the future is non-existent, and our future Buddha is non-existent. So we are in Tandriyana, according to Tandriyana, all the taking refuge, directly taking refuge is your own future Buddha. As a future Buddha is non-existent, and you have no refuge, object. And Tandriyana, most of the time we talk about three refuge object, like cause, causal refuge object, like the Bodhisattva Muni or the Arhat, or their realizations, or their the cessation, call it cessation of the afflictive emotions. And Tantrayana says, refuge object is your own future enlightened being and your own future realizations, omniscient mind, your own future cessation of afflictive emotions. So you're taking refuge to your future Buddha, your future Dharma, your future Sangha. So all become non-existent. You have no practice. Then you have said everybody goes to school, say they have no, they are following non-existing. So I think here the Chandrakirti, the main thing is to test your understanding. You have to negate intrinsic quality, even in a conventional level. Conventionally, there is no indesirable in the body, in the skin, in the flesh, no, in the bone marrows, right? In the heat of the body, in the air that comes in and out. All of them are empty of indesirable. There is no me at all. Is a conventionally there is no me. So when you negate that, even in conventionally, and what comes to you conventionally to claim I am monk, then says is a conceptually designating monk with the monastic vows that you took, and then the five aggregates are the object to designate or self, the person. So that the convention makes it very, it's kind of this. Uh, it helps you to see yourself like a mirror image, just constantly. There is no limit of yourself. So almost like you see yourself all every day like movie actings. There is no solid view that exists as one defined by one characteristic. So this is when there was in chapter, I think chapter 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and particularly I think chapter 15 or something that analyzing on the sense object. So he examined how color exists, and form, sound. So is conventionally is negating intrinsic quality. Now you see that's uh, in the quantum physics. It says this quantum physics or some scientists maybe they say science. When you look into the brain, the how you really define it, there's electric pulses. That is conventionally negating. There is no sense of feeling, perception, nothing but electric pulses. But so now it's say, but it creates, or depending on them, it allows you to project many things. And then there's this sound. When you examine into the sound, there is no sound at all other than the wave sound, order, there is no smell at all. But with relation to the nose, yeah, it smells something. The molecules of the odor has no smell. So these are the conventional negating intrinsic nature. So if you're constantly reflecting on this, and it's kind of, amazes you how this really like illusion like things that all every day happening.
Wasn't there teaching prior, I'm not sure if this that says that we are supposed to analyze conventional.
So it's a conventional do not stand with any analyzed reason. So again, we say, like you say, uh, like arising of the sprout. Arising of the sprout is conventional. So an arising of the sprout could not be stand with any analyzing. It is arising by itself or from others or both and without cause. Yeah. So you cannot really present it the existing of the arising through analyzing. Right. With analyzing, you cannot present existing of the arising. So you cannot present existing arising through analyzing, but with analyzing, you can understand, can illusion like arising. So that is the conventional level. So here this convention should not be analyzed means it's not saying that any conventional reality cannot be exact. So saying that the way you present the conventional reality is not through analyzing. So I have, in the monastery, we have some of the senior monks, even they, directly told me that. So sometimes it says, true intelligence is dangerous. So the example, say, giving me the example is, one of the great scholars of the Ganesha. So he was kind of, very, yeah, and he travels from Tibet to the India and Sri Lanka, so many places. He was a very good writer. So when he come back in Tibet, and many older geishas, senior geishas, so he wrote something about Nagarjuna, and many disagree, and there's something physical come to him. Not one time, so many times. He was a little annoyed. So he says, one time, his intention to he smoked cigarette. There's a Buddha's image. I'm offering mine to the Buddha. So all the geishas was very shocked, and this is evil. Because whatever I like the most, I can offer the Buddha. This is the best of my life. So I'm offering this to the Buddha. So that's what. So many Geshe says, like him, he's very, because the intelligent make him crazy. So I think, yeah, he's very, very good. Some of the sutras that never really translated Tibetan, he translated. Sri Lanka's many from the Pali languages. All the translation, very, very, what you call it, really good, very, very good, very simple, very clear. So even my class teacher once told me, don't you read his book many times? Maybe one time is okay, right? If you want to read, maybe like noon time after lunch. So they're afraid. They have the impression of him very simple, gone beyond crazy.
They're afraid of is that they'll be convinced, and they have a label in their mind that's a negative label. So they refuse to be challenged by it, to challenge themselves.
I think he find the best to just keep coming to debate with him. And there's the one great, the masters, when he was in the retreat, we call Geshe Lamrim, a great scholar and great practitioners. And he was in the retreat. When one person defined where he lives, and he offered rules to sew the ropes. And then he went to the village and says, "Oh, I met him today. I offer this. He likes that." And everybody brings the needle to you. So he was so kind of annoyed and very irritated. So many people coming. And one day there was I'm not sure it's children or the adult person, dead body buried. He dug out the dead body and hang in his door. And upside down. So nobody coming too close. so, so sometimes you have to do some crazy things to stop many crazy people. So that was because of that, he hanged the dead body upside down at the door of his retreat house. So then kind of rumors spread, even in monasteries, says that this now he's mentally ill. His brother was very, and he went to one of the identity machines, protocol of Lama Tsongkapha. Can you please do the divinations? My brothers, everybody's gone crazy. And you got the children to laugh, ha ha ha. So there is no chance he can go crazy. But for your comfort, I can say, you just do some Tara Puja. So it is impossible. Yeah, so any questions? Chanju Simja Rinpoche, Majebon, Jebanya, Mevanyo, Kono, Tonya Tawa, Majebon, Jebanya, Kono, Ama Simja, and Dead and Danger, Yandro Tamja Tao, Towa, Chanju Simba, Kama Sushu, Tadagun, Monum Duji, Kadera,
到的我们接着是我今天的设备是的我
May the precious body that will arise and grow. May the bone of no decline. Precious mind will. May the bone of no decline but increase forevermore. Due to all these merits, may all father and mother sentient beings have all the happiness. All the world forever. Wherever there are obstacles, all their prayers in the sacred land of you are the source of all benefit and happiness, all powerful. This word is
Thank you very much. Thank you.